All right, guys, it is 8:15, and we will be getting started here. So excited for y'all to be joining us on the call this morning. We do these calls every Monday through Friday at 8:15, and it's just a way to wake up together, to start our day motivated, and to learn and to fill our heads with knowledge as we move forward. And we just appreciate you guys joining us today. We're going through the book, 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself and Change Your Life Forever, and I'm so excited this morning. I get to do this call every Wednesday with Miss Patty Carson. She's out of Wilsey, Kansas, which is up there in the middle of Kansas somewhere, and just a wonderful person. She's worked in government before. She's worked in civil city office before. She's a professional person, but I've got to know her for the last 15 or so years here and watched her build an incredible business. It's not the first time that she's built a business. She has a track record of being successful and building another company prior to this as well. But in the company that she's currently in, I've seen her grow a massive team and help lots of people with the product. She was featured in Work From Home magazine. They went up there and took pictures of her and her husband hanging out on the farm and got to do all that stuff because her story is so encouraging. That magazine thought it would help to encourage others on their journey. So very happy and excited to hear from her this morning. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Miss Patty.
Man, Chris, thank you. When I listened to that, I'm like, is that really me? Because, guys, I'm really a pretty simple person, but I have, a lot of ambition, we should say. But if you really ask me, my family, I try to really run things, God, family, career. And as I said, as I jumped on a little late this morning, I've had a sleepover with my granddaughter and a little cousin, and it was her first time ever sleeping away from home, so it was kind of a crazy night, but we got through it, and we were celebrating being a champion right before this call. So anyway, we are on chapter 22 of the book, 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself by Stephen Chandler, and we are on chapter 22, and I love this one. It's called Kill Your Television. And Stephen says, my brother used to own a T-shirt store, and one of the most popular shirts for sale said, kill your television. He said, I bought that T-shirt with the picture of a TV being blown up. It still makes people nervous to look at it when I wear it today. He said, you can actually change your life by turning off your television, maybe just one evening a week to start with. What would happen if you stopped trying to find life in other people's shows and let your own life become the show you got hooked on? Cutting down on television is sometimes terrifying to the electronically addicted, but don't be afraid. You can detox slowly. If you're watching too much television and you know it, you might find it useful to ask this one question: which side of the glass do I want to live on? When you are watching television, you are watching other people do what they love doing for a living. These people are on the smart side of the glass because they're having fun, and you are passively watching them have fun. They are getting money, and you are not. There's nothing wrong with occasionally watching other people do what they love doing, but the average household now does this for 7 hours a day. And are they living on the side of the glass that will advance their lives? Big advertisers hope not. Here's a good test for you to determine if television motivates you more than books do. Try to remember what you watched on television a month ago. Think hard. What effect are those shows having on the inspired side of your brain? Now think about the book that you read a month ago, or even the e-zine you read last week. Which made a more valuable and lasting impression? Which form of entertainment better leads you in the direction of motivation? Today, the growing fascination with going online is an improvement over television, especially if you interact. Communicating inside thoughtful chat rooms and sending and receiving email both grow the brain. Television does the opposite. Groucho Marx once said he found television very educational every time someone turns it on, he said, I go in the other room to read a book. And I thought that was great. And I remember years ago in one of our companies, I heard a speaker get on stage and say, that chair you're sitting in while you're watching television is called the $1 million chair, because that's what it's going to cost you over your lifetime. Think about if the average person is watching 7 hours a day, that's a lot that you could be putting in, into a part-time business and developing yourself. And, and he briefly touched on it, and, the book's a little older, but briefly touched on, now we have, social media, the internet, and that gets people, really engrossed in, and people get to watching. I was out at a restaurant last week, and I looked, and there was probably 30 people in the restaurant, and almost 3/4 of them were all looking at their phones when they're with people at dinner. And it just made me think, we forget how to communicate and build those relationships, and it's really a big thing to be able to do. And, just to, take the time. And one of the things I just kind of wanted to hit on, too, is like the social media and stuff or whatever. I mean, it's so smart. This AI stuff is so smart. I know it's a little bit of controversial, but if you start researching things that will help you be better, and if you look at things that actually make you be better, that algorithm will start, bringing those things to your attention. And the more you watch of it, the more it'll bring more of it to you. So it can actually help you out. But, it's just, don't compare yourself, be able to, take charge of your life. So I'm going to turn it over. I know Chris is going to have some great wisdom on this.
No, I'm kidding. I went to an event, and Patty and I talked about going to different events or whatever, and at this particular event, there was a speaker, and he called the television an electronic income reducer. And I remember when I first heard that, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I don't even understand. And he talked about a 90-day mental fast. And one of the things he asked you to fast from was the television. And I remember I went home and I did that. My wife thought I was crazy. She didn't get to go to that first event with me. And we were actually broke at the time. We were living with my mother and father-in-law, and they thought I was crazy. I was delivering pizzas for a living. But, I heard this guy say, that is electronic income reducer, and it stopped you from, growing and doing what you needed to. And I partook in that fast and didn't watch TV. And I would tell you my mind grew. I grew spiritually so much in that time. So this was 15 years ago or so, and we watch television now and watch the occasional movie and so forth. But what's happened is it's become a habit now not to watch TV all the time. It's become a habit not to have my face stuck in my phone all the time. And I really do attribute that decision that I made about that television, 15, 16, or actually 17, 18 years ago, as a contributor to my success. I become aware that it was holding me back and it was keeping me from where I wanted to go. I decided to stop living in the fantasy world of other people's imaginary stories and start creating my own. Today, I will tell you, especially being an election year, the news and everything that's going on, if you tried to have a conversation with me about half of it right now, I wouldn't even be able to hold a conversation with you for very long. I am ignorantly unaware of a lot of things going on right now, not because they're not important, not because they don't have an impact on my life, but mainly because I have absolutely zero control over any of it. So what good does it do me to know any of it? It's just, at the end of the day, if the world's falling apart, then it's probably best I spend my time preparing for it and preparing my family and get us in a financial situation that we need to be in to help us through that than just sitting here worrying about it and wishing it was different, because just worrying about it and wishing it was different serves me absolutely none at all. So I know it's hard, and I went through a season. I had a relapse, if you will, several years ago, where I was sitting there watching television, watching the news, having all kinds of political opinions about what was happening here and there and all this different things, and I got so consumed by it. Like I said, I relapsed. I felt like I was an alcoholic that picked up a bottle again, and it was just so easy to spend hours a day thinking about it, talking about it, watching it, seeing whatever someone else's opinion of it was. It dominated all the conversations when, I got with different people, and I'll be honest with you, it served me so little. When I finally realized that I had fell back into that, I was like, man, I'm just not going there anymore. And it's been about 2 years now. I've been pretty unplugged from pretty much everything. I'm not completely ignorant. I'll, scrolling through Facebook or whatever, you'll see, kind of what's going on. But I'll be honest with you, I'm just so unattached from it that it seems weird, but I am so much happier. I am so much more at peace and so much more focused on my family and growing with them and spending time with them. And, of course, we do ministry now, and we're youth pastors. So, it gives us the time to do what we want to do and what we feel called to do. So, whether it's a big, giant television or a little tiny version of that same television that we carry around in our pocket right now, I think when we become aware of how much time we're spending on it and really ask ourselves the challenging questions about it, there's nothing wrong with entertainment. There's nothing wrong with spending, an hour a day or maybe even 2 hours a day doing something like that. But all of us can go into the settings of our phone. My wife and I did this a couple years ago, and we're like, oh, my gosh, we're watching, 4 hours of phone a day, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or, TikTok or whatever, that a person's watching. Your phone will tell you. You can go in there and look at the settings and see how many hours a day you're spending on it. And then you have to start asking yourself the tough questions. Would have been better to, have a conversation with my teenagers that day? Would it have been better to take them bowling that day? Would it have been better to, go on a walk that day? Would it have been better to work on the house that day? So that's the type of questions that we've had to ask ourselves, and the TV is the other option. It's the alternative. The phone is the alternative, and we've just chosen to choose the family time and the ministry time and the building our business time, and it's served us very well. So, Patty, that's all I got to say. I'll flip it back to you.
Well, I think that's a great word, because of what you said, because, Darren Hardy, I follow him quite a bit, and I remember years ago I did a course called Insane Productivity, and that was one of the things he said with all the distractions of the world, years ago on the radio, you may be able to get 3 channels. Now we got Sirius XM, we got all these channels to choose from, all these podcasts, and then we used to have antennas and you have to move them just right on the TV to watch TV channels. Now there's hundreds of TV channels. So it's all this stuff, and now you got social media and how many different types of social media to distract us. So it isn't just the television, it's everything. And like Chris said, you can look at the settings. I think that's a huge deal. And we kind of went through the same thing, with Mark retiring, trying to find his niche and thing at first. It was like sleeping a little later, and then he would turn on the news for several hours. And I was like, this depresses me, with him. And, so now we've gotten our groove, and it's totally different. But it really, it's a time stealer, and I think it steals your life away. And like Chris said, it's okay if you want to watch TV here and there, but prioritize your life about what's important and what's going to matter in the end. And sometimes I think when you watch that, just like he said, you compare yourself and think my life isn't as good, where we can make our life what we want to make it. So with that, Chris, I'm going to let you open the lines and end the call for us.
All right, guys, thank you all for joining us. Hit the right button. Try again. Hey, Patty, I don't know why this is one of those days I hit my buttons over and over and it don't do what it's supposed to do.
Okay, let me see if I can do it. All
right, guys, have a wonderful day.